So I think that it's an interesting time to be alive. It's certainly a challenging time, but also very opportunistic. We have the ability to change, to grow, to make a difference more than ever before, really.
There's like opposing forces you would feel. There's this amazing good and the technology that HeartMath brings, but there's also an equal amount of disruption and lack of morality and change.
You have old ways of doing things that are very entrenched, and they're not all bad. I mean, society is evolved and produced some amazing things, but you have the old, you have the new ways of thinking, new ways of doing, and they come together. Where the old meets the new, there's friction, and that's what we see on the news.
Yes, that is a lot of what we're seeing on the news, and that's why there's so much disruption and chaos. And we're also divided. We're not together in a one coherent state, really, if you look at our political systems and so forth in the world, but you're attempting to do something different.
Yeah, separation is definitely a part of the challenge that we face, but also I see that there's another larger energetic momentum going on as well of coming together, of cooperation. You know, you see it maybe in business. There's a term now called co-opetition, for example. Rather than competing with everybody, let's figure a way we can work together and make it better for everyone. That's just one little example, but I see the spirit of cooperation actually coming in to the middle of the separation and the polarization that seems so prevalent today.
Co-opetition, I love that. It's how we work, really, how nature works together.
To me, it's part of an evolution that's taking place, where a new world is birthing itself right in the midst of the one that we have been existing in for a very long time. That's hard for people.
But super fast.
Super fast, yeah. A little window of time when it's all happening very, very quickly. And people are having a difficult time with that very often, both in terms of what they feel personally inside themselves, interpersonally, societally, globally, all of that.
I don't think we have really the tools that we have developed over time to handle the pace that we're at right now.
Well, we do have something.
Okay.
We have this magnificent intelligence that can and does lift us beyond our problems, even in the midst of the chaos and confusion. It's something that's been talked about for thousands of years, and what it's called is heart. And when heart is brought out of just the realms of spirituality and philosophy and then put into practical application in a daily life where it's needed the most, we can experience a new existence, a new life, a new sense of fulfillment that can really exceed even our greatest expectations.
Well, you've spent your greater part of your life researching this, developing this, and really looking at the science behind it. And you have done this through science, technology, and through something that you call AdHeart. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, first of all, at HeartMath, you know, one of the things that we did early on when HeartMath was actually created now 28 years ago is recognize we had to build a bridge between what people thought about heart and what had been written about it and said for thousands of years, and this daily living. How could this be applied in mainstream ways so that it could have impact on individual and societal, in societal ways? That bridge we chose was the bridge of science.
What did people think about heart?
Well, they saw it as sweet. They saw it as sentimental. They saw it as a nice thing to have, but not necessarily something that, played out in what they were doing in their lives. Terms like, you don't bring heart into business, or, those kind of terminologies were quite prevalent. And yet there was a longing for more heart. I think people want to feel love and feel cared for. They want to feel kindness. All these aspects of humankind were sort of in conflict with societal programming about what heart is. And so we needed to straighten that out, or do what we could to build that bridge between the two. And science is what we chose. And the reason we chose science is because in modern society, when something is proven through empirical scientific research, it becomes more believable.
Yeah.
We believe what science says to us. So we set about trying to show that what had been said about heart for thousands of years was actually true through a scientific lens.
We've seen the movies, it's all been about love and romance, but you're actually able to attach science to that feeling?
In a sense, yeah. What we're able to show is that there's an intelligence that we have. It's not just based upon the brain and the logical linear intelligence, which are obviously important, but there's another bandwidth, so to speak, of intelligence that we access. It's more intuitive in nature. It's more high speed. It looks out for the whole. It really brings us more into contact with who we truly are, our authentic self. And so when we started to do science, we realized, okay, we have to look at the physical heart. what's it doing? Is it just pumping blood? And what we found is that there was a story scattered throughout the research literature in little pieces showing that the heart was certainly doing more than pumping blood. So our scientific team, doing their own research and then borrowing from the little pieces of research, were able to clearly show that the physical heart is an information processing center in our bodies.
How is that determined?
Well, you determine for looking at the ways in which it communicates. I mean, for example, most people don't know this, but the heart has a nervous system. Next to the brain, it's the most complex part of the nervous system that we have. It was actually studied through a field called neurocardiology, but I call these things who knew. So who knew?
Right.
Who knew this was actually happening? And it communicates with the brain through a nerve pathway that starts in the heart. And that nerve pathway goes all the way to the higher perceptual centers of the brain. And when scientists look at the neurological traffic in the body, they can clearly see that the heart is sending a lot more information to the brain than it ever gets from.
So it starts in the heart.
Yeah.
And sends the signal to the brain.
To the brain. And brain function is critically dependent upon this information. And so there are other ways. There's hormonal communication. This is another who knew. The heart produces a lot of hormones. There's a blood pressure wave communication, biophysical. And then the one that's most interesting to me, the one that's coolest, I think, is the energetic communication. Our heart produces an electromagnetic field, surrounds each and every one of us in 360 degrees, and extends outside of our body about 3 to 4 feet. So our fields right now, yours and mine, are like we're communicating. It's not an aura or subtle energy I'm talking about. It's very measurable electromagnetic energy.
That's fascinating, especially if you were to look at it through something that measures that. You'd see a field that is crossing between us.
Yeah, exactly.
And that field then goes out way beyond us.
It does. And that field, we encode that field. The frequencies in the field are changing all the time, and we are encoding it. And here's how. We do it through our emotions. What we're feeling is actually being broadcast through that field. We're imprinting that field with our emotional state. So if we're feeling really good like we are right now, you and I, having a good time being together here at Gaia, doing an interview, that's transmitting. If we were to feel angry or frustrated or irritated, it's imprinting the field with that.
Right.
So the field's always changing. Now, you brought up a good question. This is a very conservative measurement of an electromagnetic field. But what if we begin to think about these fields through the lens of, let's say, quantum physics, which removes the barriers of time and space as we know them? So where does this heart field really connect to? Where does it go? And what does it really connect us to? These are interesting questions that we are exploring through our research today.
Well, this research is amazing. So there's a photo you have here of the electrophysiology of intuition.
Yeah. Well, one of the aspects of what we call heart intelligence is a heightened sense of intuition.
Okay.
Let me just speak a little to intuition.
Yeah,
I believe intuition is really like a field of information that's always there.
Is that the coding?
No, it's more like just this information. We draw in information from what we can call consciousness, and we turn that into what we see as our reality, and we make choices from that information. To me, intuition is part of that field of consciousness. And again, it's like we see it as ahas and insights, but it's really something that's always there, and we sort of tune into it or tune out of it all the time. So our researchers wanted to know, was there anything physiologically happening when we were, let's say, having an intuitive experience? So they did a very complex study published in the Journal of Alternative and Complementary Medicine. And by the way, there are over 300 peer-reviewed published research studies done by HeartMath, so lots of research. This one was particularly interesting to me. They had test subjects who were sitting in front of a computer, and they were taking a variety of biological measurements simultaneously at the same time. Brainwave activity, lots of heart function activity, skin response activity, lots of physiological data going back. They were sitting in front of a computer loaded with images. They had been carefully selected. Some of the images were horrific. Someone being stabbed or a snake jumping out at you. The other images were very emotionally evocative, rainbows and bunny rabbits and things like that. The computer was set on random selection. It wasn't programmed. It was randomly selected. And what they would do is that an instruction would come on the computer to push the button. They push a button, screen would stay blank for 6 seconds, then the picture emerged. Then the screen would go blank again. The picture would stay on the screen for 3 seconds. And that was repeated over and over and over again. Now, when they analyzed the data, this was really interesting. they found that in many, many cases, the physiological response to the upcoming picture was actually happening 6 seconds before the picture was on the screen.
Preemptively.
Preemptively. It was, the body was doing what it would do if the picture was there, but it wasn't there yet. Now,
how does that happen?
they continue in the analysis of that. They started looking at the information traffic occurring in the body during those time periods. They found that the first part of our physiology to respond to the picture that wasn't there was the heart. A second and a half later, the brain responded accordingly to what the picture should be. And a second and a half before the picture emerged, brain and heart coupled together at a frequency level, and then there was a picture. So the sequence was heart, brain together, picture.